here's Piaget's notion of assimilation and accommodation. Whereas other animals cannot alter themselves except by changing their species. So that's through Darwinian means, right? So what happens is a bear is a kind of solution to a set of problems. And they're the problems that the bear's environment presents. And the bear is just a bear, so it's sort of like bears were 10,000 years ago. And the only way the bear can solve a new problem, basically, is by generating new random bears, which is what it does when it reproduces, and hoping that one of those more random bears is a better fit for whatever random change might occur in the environment. That's the whole Darwinian issue, right? You can't predict which way the environment's going to go. And so what you do is you take your structure and you vary it, and you throw those out into the world. And some animals do that expensively, so they have infants that they have to program to that specific environment, but it takes a lot of investment. And some creatures do that cheaply, like mosquitoes. It's like they don't care for their kids, but they have 1 million of them, so like who cares if 999,998 die? There's still twice as many of you as there were. So those are two different reproductive strategies. And you could think about all those mosquito offspring as new mosquito ideas in embodied form, and most of them are bad ideas, and so the environment just wipes them out. Well, Piaget's point is we do the same thing with our cognitive structures, and that's the thing that's so interesting about people, in some sense, that we've internalized the Darwinian problem. And so when you think about the future, what you're doing is generating a multiplicity of potential environments, and then you're generating a sequence of avatars of yourself to live in those fictional futures. And then you watch what happens as that avatar lives in each of those fictional futures, and if the avatar fails, you don't act that out. It's bloody brilliant. It's brilliant. That's what our brain does. It's like it hypothesizes potential futures, it runs simulations, and it kills them. And that can be really painful, but it beats the hell out of dying yourself. Or maybe sometimes you won't think so, because it really can be painful. But it's something that, as far as we know, only human beings can really do, right? We invent possible futures and invent possible future selves and kill them off in our imagination. And that's what you're doing in an argument. That's what an argument is. It's like, well, here's an avatar, a representational avatar, you know, that's based on certain axioms, and I'll articulate it, and you articulate yours, and we'll have them have a fight, and whichever one survives, we'll accept as true, and we'll move forward and act that out. And you know, arguments can be pretty damn intense, but hypothetically, they're not as intense as acting out a stupid idea. That's the thing, right? Better to have some conflict and reach resolution in an abstract sense than to embody your stupidity and die. And so, you know, it's sort of a trade-off between anxiety and annihilation or pain. Whereas other animals cannot alter themselves except by changing their species, man can transform himself by transforming the world, and can structure himself by constructing structures. And these structures are his own. They're not eternally predestined, either from within or from without. Well, so Piaget, you know, he's a constructivist. He believes that there's something that your biology brings to the table and sets up the parameters, let's say, within which you can play games. But within those parameters, there's a very wide range of games that you could play. And so it's not a biological determinism, even though it's a biological framing. And you can think about it like a chess game. You know, let's assume that the rules of chess are biologically determined, just for the sake of argument. You can still play a near infinite number of chess games. And so it's the same with you. You come into the world with a set of built-in axioms. That's sort of your body and your nervous system. But you can play a very large number of games within that set of frames. And one of the things that's very interesting about that, something that's very mysterious to me, is this is a game that I've played before with students, so I'm going to play it with you if you don't mind. So we're going to play a game. You ready? Okay, you move first. Right, exactly. You don't know what to do, right? And that's so interesting, because I basically made the presupposition that you could do anything. You're completely free. And well, what do? You throw up your hands. It's like, you don't know what to do. I'm so free. It's like, free to do what? Well, that's not freedom. It's just nothing. But if I said, well, look, what we're going to do instead is when I move my arm right, you're going to move your arm right. So let's do that, okay? So I'm going to go like that. You're going to, good. And then I'll go like that. And then we'll have a little dance. Yeah. So you can play a game like that with a kid instantly. And they like that. They've got that, man. And so I've got some pictures of that. I'll show you that in a bit. But even a newborn baby, if you stick out your tongue, they can stick their tongue out back. And that, you think about that, that's just absolutely mind-boggling that they can do that. And they really can. They really do seem to be able to do that right at the moment of birth. And so, you know, you hear babies have no theory of mind. It's like, yeah, no, they can imitate. That's pretty bloody amazing, man. Like, you haven't seen robots that can do that yet. Although there are robots now that you can teach by moving their arms. You move their arms, and then they'll do it. And so you can actually program them by moving them. And then they'll just repeat it. And so they're getting damn close to imitation. They're really getting close. And then look the hell out, man. Because they're going to be imitating each other as well as us. And they're going to do it so fast, you just won't be able to believe it. So that's coming. The organism adapts itself by materially constructing new forms to fit themselves into those of the universe, whereas intelligence extends this creation by constructing mental structures which can be applied to those of the environment. That's the Darwinian idea that I just mentioned. You know, the guys that are building the autonomous cars, like, they don't think they're building autonomous cars. They know perfectly well what they're doing. They're building fleets of mutually intercommunicating autonomous robots. And each of them will be able to teach the other because their nervous system will be the same. And when there's 10 million of them, when one of them learns something, all 10 million of them will learn it at the same time. So they're not going to have to be very bright before they're very, very, very smart. Because us, you know, we'll learn something, you have to imitate it. It's like, God, that's hard. Or I have to explain it to you and you have to understand it and then you have to act it out. We're not connected wirelessly with the same platform. But robots, they are. And so once those things get a little bit smart, they're not going to stop at a little bit smart for very long. They're going to be unbelievably smart, like, overnight. So, and they're imitating the hell out of us right now too, because we're teaching them how to understand us. Every second of every day, the net is learning what we're like. It's watching us, it's communicating with us, it's imitating us, and it's going to know, it already knows in some ways more about us than we know about ourselves. You know, there's lots of reports already of people getting pregnancy ads or ads for infants, sometimes before they know they're pregnant, but often before they've told their families. And the way that that happens is the net is watching what they're looking at and inferring with its artificial intelligence. And so maybe you're pregnant and that's just tilting you a little bit, right, to interest in things that you might not otherwise be interested in. The net tracks that, then it tells you what you're after. And it does that by offering you an advertisement. So it's reading your unconscious mind. So, well, so that's what's happening.